God Is Not Dead. That is the group off the movie God Is Not Dead. If you looked at that movie, they made a part 1 and a part 2. It's a very good movie, so if you ever get a chance to look at it. God Is Not Dead. I can't think of the name of the group. Minister Jessica, who?
Newsboys.
Newsboys. That's who made that song. And they got a few songs out there that they have made and stuff. So we gotta understand our music is not just black music. It's music that worship the Lord, that sings and gives God the glory, be it a white group, black group, whatever. That's what we want to listen to. Newsboys. And when I first heard them singing and stuff, they did the one, like I said, God Is Not Dead. I really enjoyed that song. I really enjoyed that song and stuff. So just like the group who did Mercy Me, the gentleman that did Mercy Me, that movie that has been made into a movie. You hear us, I Can Imagine. That's that artist that the group Mercy Me made that movie. It came out, Mercy Me. I Can Only Imagine. And we do play that here. But let's move on. God is not dead. God is alive. We serve a risen God. Amen. But He is the King of glory. Talk to the men a little bit today, as few as we are, but we thank God for those that have came out today. I want to ask the question, what kind of man are you? Coming out of the book of Job. Coming out of the book of Job. What kind of man are you? And as we study this, we'll find and see some things about Job that we need to question ourselves individually and collectively as men today. What kind of men are we? What kind of sons, what kind of fathers, what kind of brothers are we as, and especially so-called men of God? And so we're going to look at, you don't have to stand, we're going to take each verse one at a time and stuff, and we're going to look at Job chapter 1. We're going to deal with that right there. We're going to get through the whole book of Job today. Just want us as men, old men such as you guys, young men such as myself, want us to look at and evaluate ourselves and look at the makeup of Job. Look at the makeup of Job, because Job, we can sit up there and say, well, Job had it going on, but also we'll see that Job went through some things.
Oh, yes, he did.
And Job lost some things.
Yes.
But it's not just in what he lost, but it's how he acted when he lost some things. It's how he acted. And ask ourselves, when we lose some things, how do we act? How do we act? Now, I'm talking to the men, but ladies also, how do you act when you lose something that is important to you, Job didn't just lose some little tidbits. So he lost some things that cost him something. And his actions should say how we should act. And when things go, as they say, south, when things go south, how do we demonstrate? How do we act among people? How do we talk to people? How do we treat people? How do we do it? How do we do it? So we're going to look at, there was a man in the land of Oz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright and one who feared God and shunned evil. And number one, as we can see this here, there was a man in the land of Oz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless. Blameless and upright. I mean, can you imagine if somebody said, you know what, I've been knowing that gentleman for years, and I've never seen him cuss, never heard him cuss, never heard him or saw him in a place he shouldn't be. In other words, your life is a life of perfection. Your life is so close to God. Somebody look at you and say, how do you make it? You don't get, when things don't go right, you don't get upset about it. You don't sit up there and ready to cuss somebody out. Somebody took your parking spot and there was a storm broke out yesterday. You pulled up to Walmart and the rain is coming down. You got the perfect spot right there. And somebody jumped in there and you went about you said, okay, well, bless the Lord. And you drove on around to that far spot at the end, the one you try to avoid. What does that say about us? It says that he was blameless, upright, and one who feared God and shunned evil. And I looked up shun and it says deliberately, Job deliberately avoided evil.
Come on, you better work, sir. Better work, sir. That's real.
I want you to think about it. He deliberately avoided evil. He made sure that whatever was going on that wasn't like God, I ain't finna give me a part of that.
All right.
What does that say about us? What does that say about us? Can anybody say that? Yeah, when the guys was around the corner and they were talking about who they was with last night and who they hung out with, he said, nope, that ain't part of my conversation, walked on away.
That's right.
Or did he get caught up in it?
That's right.
Ladies, what about when you're at the beauty parlor or getting your nails done and stuff like this here, and the ladies in there start talking about who they was with last night? Do you get caught up in that conversation? Or do you say, time out, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. He deliberately avoided evil. How many of us can say that we really go out our way because our character of Christ is on the line, that I'm not going to get caught up in your mess? I thought that because we sit up there and we see the word shun, but what does shun? It's that he deliberately avoided evil. He was not going to allow the God he served to be penetrated by the things of the world that was not like God. He wasn't going to allow it. Because why? He feared God. That's why they was able to say he was blameless. All right, they couldn't catch him in nothing.
That's right. That's right.
They couldn't catch him in anything.
He wasn't practicing.
He wasn't practicing it. He wasn't. He wasn't. So we see God, we see Job's character, we see Job's makeup. And Job, we go to verse 2, we see that Job had a family. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. That's a lot of family, right? That's a lot of kids, right? Woo! Pastor Nelson wanted to keep going. I said, nope, we stopping right there. She wanted to keep going. What you say, Mr. Justin? Keep going, Pastor. Oh, no, you can keep going. I told y'all have all you want, take care of all y'all have. Ain't no problem. You have all you want, take care of all you have. I have, nope, ain't no more. Let's go on. I won't even talk about that. Anyway, he had 7 sons and 3 daughters were born to him. And his possessions were 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yokes of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and a very large household, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. I tell you, that Job wasn't no poor man.
Okay, that's right.
Job had something.
Yes, he did.
But what you understand, this just didn't happen overnight.
No,
My
that's
Lord.
right.
My Lord.
Job had some things. But what I liked about Job is we see this was not Job's God.
Come on now.
All
That
right,
word.
all right.
His possessions were not Job's God. His children was not his God. They were not. Yes, Job had all this. He was the greatest. He was the greatest man in the East among the people and everything there, and he had all this. But they did not overtake him. Too many times our possessions overtake us.
Come on now.
That's
All right.
right. That's right.
And that we sit up there, we forget about God. The next thing you know, we worshiping the things,
Yeah.
Not
the possessions, and we're not worshiping God.
That's right. That's right.
We're not worshiping God. We lose focus. And so understand this here. You don't have to have a whole lot of your household to lose track.
Amen.
You don't have to have 7 sons and 3 daughters. You don't have to have all that cattle and all them oxen to lose track of who the God is that you serve.
That's right. That's right.
Some people don't have nothing, but they're always worshiping their car, they worshiping their TV, they worshiping shows, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
And so he had all of this. He was a great man. He had all this here. Verse 4, and his people would go. And so we see here is that right there is that his people and his sons will go and feast in their house, each on his appointed day, and will send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. So the children, each day, each one of the sons, hey, come on over, we're gonna have dinner at our house. We're gonna get together and we're gonna have dinner at our house. And so that's what they did. They got together, they eat, and I always invite the sisters. That's a family united.
That's right.
I want y'all to think about that now. That's a family united. How many families like that today? Quiet in the house.
My Lord.
That's right.
You got some that when every time they show up, they coming up, they ain't bringing nothing. They showing up deep, but they ain't bringing nothing to help. I ain't gonna mess with nobody.
My Lord.
All right.
All right.
So let's go on to the next verse. So we see that. So it was when, verse number 5. So it was when. We got that up there, verse 5. It's coming.
There you go.
All right. So it was when the days of feasting had ran their course that Job would send and sanctify them, and he would raise up early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. Job was a praying man for his children.
Yes, he was.
Job prayed for his children. How many fathers do that?
Come on, sir.
How many mothers do that?
Oh, have mercy.
I mean, hey, in the day's time, you got to pray for your kids like never before.
Amen.
When your kids go to school, you got to pray for them. They go to work, you got to pray for them. You need to be praying for them, not just their protection, but God keep their mind. God protect them. God watch over them. God, if they did anything wrong.
Give him some wisdom. My Lord.
Y'all understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So Job prayed for them on a regular basis. And he did it just in case. For Job said, it may be my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus Job did it regularly. You don't know, hey, I'm going to tell y'all now, if you know about it, you know it's easy for kids to get caught up in mess. They ain't.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so that's why you need to pray for them. The adversary is out to get them.
That's real.
He's out to get them. If you're not praying for your kids as a father, if you're not praying for your household, you're neglecting your duty.
Yes.
Come on, you better work out.
Right in the
You
house.
better work out. It's real. It's
You're
real.
neglecting your
Oh,
duty.
yes.
That's right. That's right.
You should pray for them every day, your whole household.
That's real.
You should pray for them. Whether they're in your household or not in your household, you should pray for them.
That's right.
You should pray for them. Amen, somebody.
Amen.
So he did this on a regular basis. And that's the question you got to ask yourself. Do I do this every now and then when somebody remind me? Or has it become second nature that
Oh, have mercy.
My Lord. My Lord.
So he did it on a regular basis. So, verse 6. Now, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. Now we finna go into what happened to Job. Here he is, Job doing his thing. Understand this here. There are things that's going to come in your life that the fact is this here. You don't have to be doing anything at all wrong.
Amen.
That's right. That's right.
You don't have to be doing anything wrong. Doesn't mean that you're going to have a peaceful day, peaceful week, peaceful day, peaceful month. If you don't have any problems, you need to check yourself. You need to check yourself.
My Lord.
Bob Perkins quick to tell you, I don't want no problems. But you know what? You need to have some trouble in your life. And not the fact there's trouble to destroy you, but the troubles to know that the fact is when things come your way, you know that you can still trust God. You can still trust God. See, we don't want no troubles because we want to have a good life, but Jesus had trouble.
Yes, man. Yes,
So if he had trouble come his way, how come we ain't? He told us to pick up our cross and follow him. Did he not say it? So we see here that so now at the day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, "From where do you come?" So Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro on the earth, and from. Okay, then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is none like him on earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil." Now, you know, when I looked at verse 8, I ain't gonna lie to you. If I was Job, I said, "Lord, why do you have to mention to me? You got billions of people on this planet. Why you got to throw my name in the midst?" I mean, I'm just saying the truth. I know the rest of y'all would say, "Yeah, God, bring it on, mention my name." But you know what? If it was me, I'd have said, "God, you could keep quiet. You don't have to throw me on the spotlight. You don't have to throw me on the spotlight." Because think about this here. Look at it. It said, then the Lord said to Satan. Satan didn't say to the Lord.
Come on, preacher.
Come
Come on.
All right.
The Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job?" Job's name never would have got mentioned if God hadn't mentioned it.
All right.
That's real right there.
But understand this here. He goes on to brag about him after he mentioned it. He said, "There is none." Don't you want, you know what, when I saw that, I said, "God, mention my name." Because I want God to say that there is none like him on the earth. A blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil. And we talked about shun, deliberately avoid evil. Isn't that good to know?
Oh, yes.
See, when you first look at it, you be wanting God not to mention your name. But when God throw this kind of resume behind you, you should want God to say that about you. Well, he's bragging on him. He's bragging on him. So then Satan answered the Lord and said, "Does Job fear God for nothing?" Oh, you know, Satan gonna always challenge.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
He said, "Have you not made a hedge around him, around his household?" Now look what he's covering now. He said, "Have you not made a hedge around him personally, around his household, protecting his family?" He said, "And around all that he has on every side, all his possessions. You have blessed the work of his hand, and his possessions has increased in the land." See, you done all this for Job.
That's why he worships.
That's why, hey, come on now. Come on. If I had it like that, I'll be worshiping you too. Y'all follow me? I'm saying they ain't gonna never have it like that, but you know.
Right.
But he's sitting up there, see, he's sitting up there talking about that. And Satan does the same thing about us.
Oh, yes.
Send them a test. I guarantee you they'll break under this. Make everything go bad for them.
Come on, you better.
Don't answer their prayer. I guarantee you they will turn away from you.
Yeah, they will.
But he said, "But now, stretch out your hand." Okay, where we at? Oh, "But now stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face."
My, my, my.
Oh, my.
My, my, my. Mm.
And the sad part about it is that when Satan says this, not all believers, but there are some that when things going right, they do start cussing God.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Amen, somebody.
Amen.
They do want to walk away from God. There's some. That's why he said, I'm so glad he said, I'm married to the backslider.
Oh, yes.
Those are ones that have walked away.
Come on, preacher.
Those are one that got too hot in the kitchen. They said, I ain't finna put up with this no more.
Right.
I thought I was serving a loving God. I thought that everything's supposed to be good. I thought I was supposed to have no trouble. I thought I was supposed to be on easy street the rest of my life. And when trouble comes, they may have a little bit of trouble, but when it really gets hard, you don't see them around no more. They stop showing up in church. When they talk about me, I ain't going to church. Pastor's asking too much of me, I ain't going to church. They asking me to pay my tithe. I can't do it. Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it.
My Lord.
I can't do it. I got to stop going. And that's what it starts with. That's what it don't take much. And he said, and the Lord said to Satan, behold, all that he has is in your power. God turned it over to him. He said, and the Lord said to say, behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not lay a hand on his person. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. See, understand this here. Satan always think that when he think he done tricked God.
Right.
And he think he finna get over on God.
Right. He done dared.
Yo, he think that, hey, I got this and that. I got what I wanted.
Right.
Remember, he thought that same thing about Jesus, put him on the cross. He gonna death, you got it, right? He thought he had it.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Hallelujah.
And he think he got the same thing in your life.
Come on now. Come on.
Talk to me, somebody. He think he got the same thing in your life. He think that when he get before God and start telling God, don't answer that prayer, sit up there and you let her go through something or let him go through something, he gonna cuss you and God and die. He think that he know it all.
That's right. Right. Lost a job.
Lost his job. Oh, he ain't gonna show up no more. He ain't gonna show up.
My God.
Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, the ox were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them. When the Sabian raided them and took them away, indeed they had killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. When he was still speaking, I want you to see how calamity sometimes works.
Come on.
While he was still speaking, another came and said, the fire of God fell from heaven, burnt up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Wait a minute, hold it. You come to me, you tell me about I done lost this and that. You come along and tell me I done lost this here. While he was still speaking. Y'all see the road there. Y'all see, understand, sometimes when don't you ever feel like that when something starts rolling in your life, it keeps going and going and going. It seems like you can never win. While he was still speaking, another also came and said the Chaldeans formed 3 bands, raided the camels, took them away, yes, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Boy, I tell you, there was some blessed servants that was able to escape, because they were wiping everything and everybody off the map.
Right, that's right.
While he was still speaking. Good grief. And the Bible said God put no more on you than you can bear.
Right.
Job, you good.
That shows us a whole lot. I ain't gonna tell you no lie. That's a whole lot coming down on him. While he was still speaking, another also came and said, your sons, now I want you to see how it hit everything and how it built. It didn't just stay low. Everything got worse. and worship, if that's the correct word, and worship is not the correct word. Okay. I flunk English. While he was still speaking, another came and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind came from across the wilderness. All of a sudden, a great wind come from nowhere and struck the four corners of the house, and it fell on the young people, and they are dead, and I alone have escaped the tale.
My God, my God. Mental ward here.
Everything.
It's over.
And just a matter of minutes almost.
I'm gonna tell you, woo! I see what Mother First said. Don't let no more happen to me than what has happened. All of this comes, but look at Job's reaction. Then Job arose, tore his robe, shaved his head. I probably would have went through my throat. I ain't gonna lie to you. And fell to the ground and worshiped.
What kind of man? That kind of man.
What kind of man? A blameless and upright man. One who fears God and deliberately avoid evil.
Glory.
What kind of man is that? Do we have that kind of man today in the house? That if all hell, because you would say all hell broke loose that day.
Yes, you right.
Tell the truth. When you sit up there, you got all that. You sit up there, I mean, come on. Ain't nothing left. You done took all my possession, took all my property. You done took my kids. What's left to take?
Right.
Ain't nothing left but me and my wife. And Job's response was, he fell to the ground and worshiped. He fell to the ground and worshiped. And look what he said. And he said, naked I came from my mother's womb, naked shall I return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
Amen. Job was a man.
My Lord. He was a man.
I wonder how many Jobs we got in the house today. And it's easy to talk this thing here.
Yes, it is.
It's easy to say what I'd do if this was to happen to me. But what about if it did happen to you? How would you handle this situation? So that's the question is, what kind of man are you? What kind of man are you? Ladies, what would happen if you was in the same boat? We talk about Job, but what happened if you was in that boat? And the servants come knocking on your door and telling you the stock market done crashed, and your house getting repossessed, and your car getting towed away, and now your kids that you had, they died in a car accident. What would you do? Grandkids, they got killed. They was in the car too. What would you do? What would you do? How would you handle that? And I can believe that Job was able to still stand because Job had a regular relationship with God. Job had a relationship with God. Because what Job didn't do what he did every now and then. Job did what he did on a regular basis.
Yes, yes.
Amen.
So we see here, in all this, verse 22, in all this, Job did not sin nor charge God with wrong.
My.
Tell your neighbor, say, that takes something.
That takes something.
Go and tell your neighbor, say, that takes something.
That takes something.
Tell one more time, say, that takes something.
That takes something.
Not to charge God
Not to charge God.
with what happened in my life.
What happened? Oh my goodness.
That takes a whole lot of something.
Because how many of us do that today? If God had been here, this wouldn't have happened to me. It's God's fault. If I hadn't been worshiping God, I wouldn't have lost my job. I was on the job witnessing and I lost my job. See, I know I shouldn't have never said anything about God.
My, that's real. It's real.
That's why some of us don't, when we're at the job or we're around our family members, we don't mention God. We don't want them to know who we serve.
My Lord.
Or we say we serve. But he said, if you're ashamed of me, I'll be ashamed of you.
My Lord.
He didn't sin. There was no wrong. I mean, that speaks highly of him right there.
Oh, yes, it does.
That speaks highly. Him not to say anything, to keep his, to not sit up there and charge God, to not tell God it's your fault. To do an Adam thing, y'all know what Adam did, remember? When Adam sat up there and ate that fruit, he said, that woman you gave me. He blamed that on God. If you hadn't gave me this woman here, I wouldn't be in the shape I'm in right now. Go on. So he did not, and all this. Oh, let's see. Nope. Let's go back to, go from there because I want to get the wife next. 22. Yeah. Go back to chapter 1, verse 23, because this is the one when he goes on. Or is that 10? And so they, nope, going on. That's not the end of it. Oh yeah, he was right. Minister Justin was right. In chapter 2 now. We're in chapter 2. He was right. I was wrong. So I'm going to be like Minister Justin one day. I'm going to have all my stuff up here so I can do it from up here. He can retire. And there was a day when the sun, oh, that's the wrong one. Oh, is this chapter 2? Okay. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. See, you understand this here. And we see he's going back. Satan never gets enough.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tie you down.
You done got it
He don't
today,
quit.
but he coming back.
He don't quit. He don't quit. Look at everything that he done
He
done.
quit, but he don't.
Until you throw up that white flag, until you surrender, he is never going to surrender. And so we see right there, again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said to Satan, from where do you come? Satan answered the Lord, said, from going to and fro on the earth, and from walking back and forth on it. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered, there you go again. He puts his name back out there again. He said, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on earth, a blameless, and look at, same thing, he bragged about him before.
Right, that's right.
Even in all that right there, he still come back and brag about him again. And still, if you look at it, he says, shun evil, and still, everybody say, and still, he hold fast to his integrity.
My Lord.
After all that, can God still say that about you?
Oh, have mercy.
That when you done went through all hell, and God can still say, and he's still standing strong. And he's still worshiping me. And he's still trusting me. And he's still loving me. And he still praising me. Can God say that about you? Although you incite me against him to destroy him without cause. So you try to get me destroyed without cause. So Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin. Yes, all that a man had he will give for his life. But stretch your hand now and touch his bones and his flesh, and he will surely curse you to your face. Once again, trying to be slick. And Satan said to the Lord, behold, he is in your hand, but spare his life. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord, struck Job with painful boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. And he took for himself a potsherd with which to scrape himself while he sat in the midst of the ashes. Anybody had boils or seen boils? Gross looking, ain't they? Painful, aren't they? Can you imagine him having from his foot, his feet, all the way to the top of his head? And here he is just scraping them things, trying to bust them, looking grotesque. What you say, sister? Gruff, ain't it? It's gross looking. Smelly too, if I'm correct, right? Yes.
Infection.
Pardon?
It's an infection.
It's an infection, right? I mean, all over, covered, painful. That's what Satan done to him. That's what Satan. And God sit back and let him do it. He sit back and let him do it.
I might have had to question God somewhere.
So it was on while he said in the midst. Now, here's the wife. Then his wife said to him, do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die.
Cold woman.
Can anybody blame her for what she just said? I mean, hey, she see her, look at that. She done lost everything. She done lost her children. She sees her husband in turmoil. Would you say that this is a woman that's hurting? I mean, come on, think about it now. She's hurting. She done lost. And the thing is, the blow that really got to her was not so much as the possessions, but the fact is she done lost all her kids. She didn't lose one, she lost all of them. All of them are dead. And now she sees her husband in pain, suffering, turmoil. And she asked him a question. Do you still hold fast to your integrity?
Okay.
Curse God and die.
All right.
I say she's hurt. Mad.
Come on now.
Come on, let's tell the truth now.
Too, and everything.
I mean, hey, you be the same way, probably. We're human. Do I want to see my wife suffer? Would I like to sit and see her suffer?
No.
Would you want to see somebody suffer?
No, you don't.
You done lost your kids and everything there. You be mad? You be hurt? I was trying to sit there and try to really get a feel of what was her mindset when she said it. But he said to her, you speak as one of the foolish women speak.
Girl, please, you know what?
What? I done lost my kids. I done lost everything. Here I am seeing you suffer, smelling and everything. You in pain? Because I guarantee you, Joe wasn't sitting up there just scream.
No.
Joe was, oh,
Yeah.
come on then, you in pain. You're going to make some noise.
Right.
And he tells her, you speak as one of the foolish women speak? Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? And all this Job did not sin with his lips.
Ma.
Do we have any Jobs in the house?
Massive Job.
Any wannabe Jobs? Oh,
Oh, yeah.
all right. Be careful what you ask for. Because if you want to be Job, you might have to go through some of the things Job went through. I always say, no matter how bad you think a situation is, it can always get worse.
That's true. That's true.
It can always get worse. So we see that Job was struck with boils, foot and head. He asked his wife, said that she wanted him to cuss God and die. He said she was a foolish woman. He said she was a foolish woman. And the thing is this here, when you're going through something, Ask yourself, what kind of person am I? Men, what kind of man am I that can you deal with this? Do you pray for your kids? Do you have a regular relationship with God? Ladies, do you have a regular relationship with God? There's no man in your life. Do you spend time with God? Can you handle this if this situation came to you? Can you still hold fast? Can Satan talk about you today and God sit there and pour out a resume that make everybody else envy of you? Can he? Can he say that about you? Can he say that, hey, bring on your best shot? I know them better than you know them. Amen. I know that the fact is they'll stand fast in what they believe in. I know that the fact is no matter what you do, they still gonna live. Because that's hard. That is not an easy thing to do. We can look at it and sit there and say, yeah, but until you get in that boat, so we see this right here sets the old self. Now this is what Job said in Job chapter 3. In Job chapter 3, Job starts off right here. After this, Job opened up his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. We just got through giving Job kudos, right? Talking about how good he was. Everybody got a breaking point.
Oh, yeah.
After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. And Job said, may the day perish on which I was born, and the night in which it was said, a male child is conceived. Oh, man. It's easy to talk, but everybody got a breaking point. And here we see Job after that. Look at the things he said. He said, may the day be darkness. May God above not seek it, nor the light shine upon it. May darkness and the shadow of death claim it. May a cloud settle on it. May the blackness of the day terrify it. As for the night, may darkness seize it. May it not rejoice among the days of the years. May it not come into the... I mean, he was breaking it down. Job didn't want that day no way, no form, no fashion, no how. I wish this day had never came about. I mean, he just ran it down. Oh, may the night be barren. May no joyful shout come into it. May those curse it who curse the day. Those who are ready around Leviathan. May the stars of his morning be dark. May it look for light, but have none, and not see the dawning of the day, because it did not shut up the doors of my mother's womb, nor hear sorrow from my eyes. He runs it down on how he wished that day had never been conceived of his birth. We saw earlier in 2 and 1, hey, who Job was. But we get over here in 3, and he's letting you know,
Crying out in pain.
Crying out in pain. See, pain will make you do something.
Oh, yes. Yes, it will.
Everybody got a limit on how much pain we can deal with. In that same chapter, we jumped to verse 25, but right there in verse 25, he said, for the thing I greatly fear has come upon me, and what I dread has happened to me. Anybody still want to be Job? Be like Job? What kind of men are we? What kind of ladies are we? What kind? How are you able to deal with the situation? when it gets real bad. See, we can talk about how good Job was in the good time. We saw a little bit. But when Job got that pain was attacking him personally, and he was feeling it, and even though he told his wife to curse God and die,
No. His wife told him.
I mean, the wife told him, and he said no. What we see in the next chapter? He said, I hate the day I was birthed. I hate the day I was born. You ever felt like that? You ever been going through something? Sometimes people who commit suicide, they feel like there's no hope.
That's true.
That's why they commit suicide. They feel like there's no hope whatsoever. Job was in a sense saying, hey, I want to kill myself, but I don't know how. I'm too scared. Because I don't want that day here. I wish that day, if I had never been born, I wouldn't be going through what I'm going through right now.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
I wouldn't have to deal with the loss. So you can see also some hurt in there too.
That's right.
There's some hurt. So Job, from that point on, for the next 10 chapters, Job, 3 friends come on board, and they start talking to Job. We read the book, Job, they start talking to Job. And they even tell Job, Job, you must be going through this because you did something wrong.
It's something, bro.
You wouldn't be going, see, God don't punish good folk, he punished wicked folks. That's his 3 friends that hung with him.
That's right. That's right.
They hung with him for 7 days and 7 nights. And they sat up there and started telling him, Job, you know what? I don't care what you think you are, who you think you are, you did something wrong. That's why you're going through what you're going through.
Just admit it. Be done.
Just go on and tell the truth. All right, you cheated on your wife or you were gambling or something. Go and tell the truth.
Couldn't believe it.
No, no, Job. No, you ain't gonna convince us you did everything right. But then when we get over there to chapter 38, we're gonna skip everything. As we get over to chapter 38, then from 38 to 41 in your Bibles, Job. That's when God started challenging. Now he done sat there and let Job and his friends get it out.
Right. Right.
Now God time to speak up.
Oh, yes.
All right, I'm gonna let you get it off your chest.
That's right. That's
I'll
right.
let you say what you want to say. You think you got me right. You think you got me picked. You think you know everything about me. And we start off with the first 3 verses in 38. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this who darkness counsel by words without knowledge? Now prepare your life. Now prepare yourself like a man. I will question you and you shall answer me.
Okay.
Since you know so much, you and your 3 friends, since y'all know why I sat up there and did what I did, I'm finna start asking some questions and I better get some answers.
Get ready.
So get ready. I mean, come on, let's be real. Understand this here. God ain't gonna let you. God is only gonna deal with so much. And when you think you know God, that's when God gonna sit up here and start pulling some stuff out of the rabbits, out of the hat. Y'all too chilly in here? Just check it right quick. I want to make sure everybody ain't too chilly. Some of y'all wrapped up like y'all freezing. Feel good to me.
We bad.
Question, let me look at just, and I'm not going to hit all of these because he do this for the next 3 chapters, but he said, verse number 4, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determines the measurements? Surely you know, or who stretched the line upon it? Who scratched the line upon it? To where was the foundation fastened? Or who laid his cornerstone? Y'all see how he started? He started asking questions that he know Job can't answer.
Right.
He know Job can't answer. He know Job don't know. Come on, you asking me the foundation of the earth? I don't even know how the earth was created. He started asking him questions. And the questions he asked are questions that God knows you don't know the answer.
Wow.
But you trying to accuse and think that what I did was, I didn't know what I was doing.
Lord have mercy.
I didn't know it. And so he goes on and he deals with him on the questions, and he asks him the questions, and and he just continued to go on through 38 and 39, and he continued to ask him questions. I mean, if you read the whole thing, the whole chapter there in chapter 39, he just pulls out the questions.
Yes,
Everything
sir.
ends with a question. Everything ends with a question. Then he gets over there to verse 40. He says, share verse 40, verse 1. He said, moreover, the Lord answered Job and said, shall the one who contend with the Almighty correct him? He who rebuke God, let him answer it. Now he's telling Job to respond. Job is humbling himself before God. He humbles himself before God, starting off in chapter 40, verse 1. He humbles. And God continued to go on and challenge Job in verse 6 in that same chapter. He asked him more questions. Then he takes him to 41 and asks him more questions. Don't never let God get on the road with you. Because you ain't going to be able to answer the questions. But finally, in verse 42.
Chapter 42.
Come on.
Chapter 42.
Yeah.
Finally, in chapter 42. Tell somebody, say, finally,
Finally.
in chapter
Yeah.
42.
42.
Starting at verse 1, then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that you can do everything, and that no purpose of yours can be withheld from you. You ask, who is this who hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand.
My.
Lord
Come
have
on.
mercy.
Things too wonderful for me, which I do not know.
Man, my mouth.
Listen, please, and let me speak. You said, I will question you, and you shall answer me. I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear. But now, tell somebody, but now, my eyes see.
I see.
Therefore I hoard myself
War.
and repent in dust and ashes.
My. Hate myself.
Job had to backtrack. Job had to backtrack and had to repent. Are you the type of man that when you find that you're in the wrong place,
Come on now. Come on, sir. Come on, sir.
saying the wrong thing, that you can repent and ask God for forgiveness?
Lord have mercy.
Come on now.
That's the question you got to ask yourself.
Yes.
I don't see, understand this here. I don't care how right you are. In God's sight, if you ain't right with God, you wrong.
All right.
I don't care what you think. I don't care how things look. I don't care what you feel. If it goes contrary to what God said, you are wrong.
That's real.
You're wrong. And that's what God was telling him. Say, I asked you all these questions. The last 3 chapters, I asked you questions, and you couldn't answer not a one.
My Lord.
You couldn't answer me not a one. And you realize it. You realize. You say you don't know everything you think you know. You don't know everything you think you know. So we see in verse 7, still in 42, and so it was after the Lord had spoken these words to Job, that the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my wrath is aroused against you and your 2 friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job had. Now therefore take for yourselves 7 bulls and 7 rams, go to my servant Job, and offer up for yourselves a burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for you, for I will accept him. I will accept him, lest I deal with you according to your folly. Y'all were just as stupid as he was. Because you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job had. So Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shunammite, and Zophar the Ninevite went and did as the Lord commanded them, for the Lord had accepted Job. See, once Job apologized, he got right with God. And then we see in verse 10, and the Lord restored Job's loss when he prayed for his friends. Indeed, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Twice as much as he has lost. Then all his brothers, all his sisters, and all those who had been his acquaintance, with his acquaintance before, came to him and ate food with him in his house, and they consoled him, and comforted him for all the adversities that the Lord had brought upon him. Each one gave him a piece of silver, and each a ring of gold. Now the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning. For he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yokes of ox, 1,000 female donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. Your latter be more than your former. Look what he did for him. That's why when you're going through something, anything you lost for God, it ain't lost. God knows how to restore it. He knows how to restore even more than what you think you have lost. That's the type of God we serve.
Amen.
That's the type of God we serve.
Amen.
And I want you to see here. Look at it. He had also 7 sons and 3 daughters. He talks about his children, verse 14, 15, and 16. And this Job lived 140 years and saw his children and grandchildren for 4 generations. Look how long God allowed him to live.
Ooh, my Lord.
Look how long God allowed him to live for him to see his generations. 4 generations. Won't he do it?
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
Do it.
Verse 17, so Job died old and full of days. What kind of man are you? That when the heat, do you spend time with your family praying with them? Do you pray for them? And when things get rough, do you still trust God? Same thing with ladies. What kind of lady are you? Do people call you blameless, upright? Do they know that you're one that avoids evil? You don't, when they sit up there, everybody else talking about things that you know you shouldn't be part of. Do you stay and have that conversation, or do you leave? Do you have to act like they act? These are questions we got to ask ourselves. We got to ask ourselves these. Because the same thing God did for Job, he can do for us. Even in the rough times, he can still bring you through. He can still bring you through. All you got to do is trust him. That's it. Trust him. No matter how I look, trust him.
That's right.
No matter how bad things get, trust him. Oh yeah, I call that time when Job sat there and cursed his birth, I call that a moment of insanity. Because he went insane after that. but he got it back right. Once God challenged him, he got it back right. Get it right with God. Get it right with him. We celebrate Father's Day, but the greatest Father is that of God. That is our great Father. And that's a celebration we need to celebrate every day. Our Father, who's in heaven, who woke you up this morning and started you on your way. Who sees your past, your present, and your future. Who got you covered from head to tail. Who will keep you no matter what you're going through. And he will keep your mind on peace, who stayed on him. Keep you in perfect peace, whose mind stayed on him. And that is just trusting the Lord. Just trusting him. Amen? Amen. Amen. Nothing fancy, just a simple little story about Job. I like Job. I know Job. I like him. Don't want to be him. Don't want to go through what he went through. But Job was good. Job was all right. Do we have a Miss Job in the Bible? Nobody? No, we don't have no one who went through what Job went through, do we?
No, we don't have no Miss Job in the Bible, I don't think.
Shucks. We serve a good, awesome, mighty, and wonderful God. As we stand to our feet, am I going to come here with you too? As we bless the Lord, for he is good, and his mercy endures